Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep and put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
Hey, folks, first and foremost, having just been in Washington, D.C., and flown in and out of Reagan National Airport, condolences and just heartfelt sorrow go out to the families of those who tragically lost their lives in that crash between the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter and the American Airlines flight. You know, that's a very tight airspace that we have there, and with all the things that are going on, you know, you see helicopters going back and forth over there in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of military that's surrounding that area, and then, of course, the civilian aircraft, and it was just a tragedy that finally, you know, something broke down in the system and that happened, and I'm sure that we'll get to the bottom of it between the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, and, of course, President Trump. But again, right now, let's just lift those families up in prayer for those people who were just traveling and lost their lives. But speaking of Washington, D.C., it really was an incredible event to be up there for an inauguration. The last time I was in D.C. for an inauguration, you got to go back to President Reagan. And I was the commander of the University of Tennessee Army Color Guard, the Dragoon Color Guard, and the University of Tennessee band was invited to play, and therefore our color guard marched before them. And it was cold then. Boy, I tell you, it was frigid. It wasn't so bad. As you know, one of Reagan's inaugurations will move inside, just the same as this one. But the morning of the inauguration, I got up and, yeah, it was frigid. But I decided to go out because I wanted to take a little run. I wanted to just see that atmosphere. I wanted to see the Capitol and how it was arrayed. Of course, they were starting to close down, you know, a lot of the streets and everything, security gates. So, you know, I got in probably about 3, maybe 3.5 miles. But the amazing thing was that here I was out at 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. There were Americans out. There were people out going to stand in line for, you know, what would be the presidential parade, since it wasn't going to be outside. They had it in the arena there in Washington, D.C. There was a sense of joy. I mean, serious, heartfelt, genuine American patriotic joy. And the words of Liberation Day, it was true. You know, my wife, Angela, and I, we were with some friends, and of course, everyone became everyone's friend over those days there. But we met down in the lobby of our hotel, the Hilton at Lafont Plaza, right there off from the Smithsonian, the National Mall. And we all watched the ceremony. And when he took his oath, it was a very incredible moment. And I know a lot of people on the left, of course, were not happy with his presidential speech, but I think it was important. I think it was important to make sure that in this transition, we understood that we were transitioning away from the nightmare of the previous 4 years. And for all those other presidents to see that and understand that. For them to know that the policies would be reversed. And when you talk about the reversal of the policies, it's so funny to me because it's as if the progressive left, the Democrat Party, were kind of like, we triple dog dare you to do it. I mean, really. And wasn't it incredible to see immediately what started to happen. I mean, when was the last time you saw a president of the United States of America on his inauguration day sign executive orders and executive actions in front of the American people, like President Trump did at the arena in Washington, D.C., to basically say that we're here to serve you? And when you hear that term promises made, promises kept, it's for real. And probably the most for real promise that immediately came to fruition was this whole thing on securing our border and illegal immigration. Now, it's amazing to me that anyone would stand up and say, we don't like that. You know, just recently here, a week ago, you all saw in Dallas and Fort Worth, we had protests in both of those cities of individuals that were coming out against the deportation actions that have been taking place, enacted by this administration. Now, what is wrong with deporting criminal illegal immigrants? Now, first of all, let's break this down. Criminal illegal immigrants. In those three words, we have just talked about two actions of criminality. Because coming across the border into this country illegally is a crime. It's a felony offense. In the Constitution, they refer to it as an invasion. If someone breaks into your home or comes into your home uninvited, it's called a home invasion. So what is the problem with us? And that's what the words say in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, the guarantee clause. The federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state and union protection from invasion. Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3 of the Constitution says that if a state is actually invaded and they have these things that they could do in recourse, when there is imminent danger, they can take action without any admit of delay. But the key word is invasion. So being in this country illegally, that's a criminal act. That's an invasion. Now, on top of that, we're talking about people that have already committed crimes on top of coming into this country legally. Some pretty heinous crimes when you think about it. Murder, rape, assault in their country of origin and also in this country. So why do we have people going out and protesting against that? And it really does not help your cause. And I'm speaking honestly and genuinely to the people who decided to organize these protests in Dallas and Fort Worth just recently. It doesn't help your cause when you're out there waving flags of another country and talking about America is stolen land. This actress, Selena Gomez, who got on some video and was crying all over the place. I mean, she's got a home right over here in the Fort Worth, Texas area. She lives here in Texas. It doesn't help her cause when she's talking about and crying for my people. Are her people criminal, illegal immigrants? Last time I checked, I think she's American. Where were her tears for 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungare from right here in Texas, Houston, as a matter of fact, who was brutally raped and killed by two Venezuelan criminal illegal immigrants, members of Trinidad? Where were her tears for Laken Riley, who President Trump has just signed into law, the Laken Riley law, which says we are going to harshly go after those criminal illegal immigrants that commit crimes against women? And what Democrat, what person would not vote for that piece of legislation? I mean, who are their people? And so when you look at this thing, and again, this whole fear mongering, I wish I could repeat the words of her video, but she's crying for the children. Which children? perhaps you should be crying for the over 340,000 children, which I've been reading reports. They've already found somewhere between 70 and 80,000 of these children that went missing in the 4 years of the Biden administration. They found some of them, which leads me to know that maybe we already knew where they were. But 340,000 children, sex trafficked, out there probably working in horrible conditions. Why wasn't Selena Gomez crying for them? And so all of this fear mongering, I mean, you look at CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all this stuff. Well, we have to be very concerned. This is very troubling. The Trump administration is going to come after grandmothers. No, they're not. I mean, how many times does Tom Homan have to say, we're focusing on national and domestic security threats? And it's proven out. I mean, even during the Biden administration in the final months, I think it was September, October of last year, ICE came out and told us there are some 600,000 criminal illegal immigrants here in the United States of America. 600,000. That's a big number. That's where you got to start. And if you have been paying attention to the news and seen some of these folks, drug traffickers, gang members, rapists, to include child rapists, sad thing. Child rapists should take them in a back alley and shoot them. Think about the woman who was on the subway train in New York City. Just wanted to go, I guess, home. And a criminal illegal immigrant from Venezuela set her on fire. I don't think Selena Gomez was crying about her. So I don't know what the left thinks in standing in opposition on this issue. This is one of the two big critical issues that the American people said, enough. The other one was the economy. We'll talk about that a little later in one of our segments. But without a doubt, Americans did not want to have 600,000 criminal illegal immigrants running around in their neighborhoods, regardless of what some of these politicians have to say. We're going to talk about some of these politicians when we come back. Greetings, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. In my career, from the battlefield to Congress, honor and integrity have always been my compass. When it comes to building a precious metals portfolio for my family, I choose United Patriot Corp. Their commitment to honesty and transparency aligns with everything I stand for. They care about our great country and focus on serving patriots from all walks of life. They've teamed up with veterans of the precious metals market to create a new kind of gold dealer designed to serve the needs of a new type of gold buyer. And that's why I know I can trust them when it comes time to buy my gold and silver. If you value honesty and reliability as I do, then join me. Hey folks, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here, Steadfast and Law Program. Welcome back to segment number 2. In the first segment, we started talking about this issue of illegal immigration and how, for whatever reason, there is angst and protests against the actions that are being taken to deport criminal illegal immigrants from this country. 600,000, that's the number that we have out there. Now, I want you to understand that there's also another number we need to be very concerned about. That's 1.5 to 2 million. And maybe you weren't paying attention to this, but 1.5 to 2 million of what they call the gotaways, people that we know entered into the country. We could have seen them on surveillance cameras or what have you, but we weren't able to keep track of it. We don't know where they are. I mean, perhaps you remember that video that showed single military age males storming the gates out there in El Paso overrunning members of the Texas National Guard. Now, first and foremost, you got to kind of ask yourself, why did these members of the Texas National Guard standing on the border of the United States of America not have weapons? And if they did have weapons, what was their rule of engagement? But they got overrun. And I want to know, where are all those single military age males? But see, when you go out and you talk to people in Alpine, Texas, way out in Brewster County, it's the Big Bend sector of our border. Because remember, Texas has almost 1,300 miles of border that it shares with a destabilized nation. I don't care what you say. But Mexico does not have operational control of the border. The cartels do. But now we're starting to get back operational control of the border. We're going to put heat on the cartels. And as a matter of fact, just this past week, you had a firefight. I want you to understand this. I've been in combat. On the border of the United States of America, you had a firefight. We've had shots fired previously, but you had an engagement between cartel members who are trying to cover the crossing of illegals and our Border Patrol. That's why the president is sending the military to the border. Now, you're going to all of a sudden, you hear about it. That's a violation of the Posse Comitatus. No, it's not a violation of the Posse Comitatus because the United States military is not being deployed to take any action against American citizens. We deploy our military all over the world to protect the borders of other countries. We send billions of dollars to other countries to help them protect their own borders, like Ukraine. And now all of a sudden, people are in a tizzy because we're doing it here. What do you expect our military to do? Oh, maybe you want them to sit around and have more classes on DEI. DEI is gone. Maybe more sensitivity, sessions about critical race theory. That's gone. Maybe you want them to learn more about their proper pronouns. Not happening. Our military is going to do what they're supposed to do. Support and defend the Constitution. And the Constitution recognizes America as a sovereign republic, which means we have sovereign borders to protect. And our Border Patrol should not be in a firefight with a non-state, non-uniform, belligerent organization, basically a terrorist organization. We have fought Al-Qaeda, Taliban, you name it. ISIS, cartels, no different. And that's why President Trump, in one of his executive orders, designate them as a terrorist organization. So what does that mean? We can deploy our military to take care of business. So what gives? The tears of Selena Gomez. Give me a break. She's an actress. She doesn't know anything. But all of a sudden, these Catholic bishops that are coming out talking about we should have mercy. Okay, that's fine. How about mercy for these children? 340,000. They're missing somewhere. But mostly, how about mercy for the woman who was set afire on a subway in New York City by a criminal illegal immigrant? How about mercy for the mother of 5 in Maryland who was brutally raped and killed? How about mercy for Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungaray? We can go down the list. See, I think what these Catholic bishops and folks are worried about, like Catholic Charities, that money is gone. That money that came in through the Biden administration that allowed them to go down there and work as the travel agencies for illegal immigrants in this country, that's gone. See, their little self-interest, their little honeypot has been kicked over. And now they're upset and they're trying to act like they really, really care about people. They don't. They care about their bottom line, which is to line their pockets at the expense of the safety and security of the American people, at the expense of the safety and security of our nation. Because there's some bad actors in that 1.5 to 2 million gotaways that have come across this country. As a matter of fact, you look at the list of some of these people, there's some terrorists that have been caught. We don't want these people in our country. We're not talking about grandma making breakfast burritos. We're not, and the other thing is that, well, who's going to mow your lawn? I don't want someone mowing my lawn that maybe was a rapist and a murderer in another country and maybe is prone to do the same thing here, to include the children. I don't want them here. You shouldn't want them here either. But what is interesting is that we have elected officials, and namely the one that's talking the most is this governor of Illinois, Governor Pritzker, how he is not going to allow anything to happen to his people. His people. And I love it how the left tries to change language and all of a sudden is to make it more palatable. They don't say criminal illegal immigrants. They say undocumented individuals who may have committed crimes. No, it's a criminal illegal immigrant. And you should not be protected. They don't have residency. He's calling them residents. They don't have residency. If you invade my home, if you unlawfully come into my home, that doesn't make you a resident in my house. It's insidious. And so when you hear these governors and mayors like Brandon Johnson up in Chicago, who I'm telling you, there's about to be a little mini civil war in Chicago where Brandon Johnson doesn't understand his constituency. And I'm talking about the Black constituency. They're showing up at city council meetings and they are peeved about all this kowtowing, the special privilege that's been given to people that are there illegally, to include the gangs. There's a turf war going on in Chicago because of a gang like Trinidad. And furthermore, speaking of Trinidad, how do people come into this country illegally with criminal backgrounds and get weapons? Y'all saw the video out in Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver. And that was one of the places they had a really, really big bust of Trinidad members, I think some 50 to 55. But how did they get weapons? I mean, they're going through these apartment buildings. Who's the straw buyer out there that's purchasing weapons and giving, or are they going in and lying about? I don't know. But see, I think that anyone that is harboring knowingly criminal illegal immigrants, anyone that is aiding and abetting criminal illegal immigrants, they should be brought up on charges too. Especially those people that are out there straw buying. But anyhow, I get back to, these folks, Brandon Johnson, Governor Pritzker in Illinois, and whoever else, some of these Democrats are starting to change their tune, but they need to understand something. The Supremacy Clause in the Constitution is very clear. In pursuance thereof, three very important words in the Supremacy Clause. Article 6, Section 1 or Section 2 of Article 6 in the Constitution. When the federal government is taking action, when the federal government is doing things in pursuance thereof, in alignment with, in accordance with, in conjunction with, as part of the Constitution of the United States of America, our rule of law, Article 4, Section 4, the Guarantee Clause to protect every state in the Union from invasion, you don't get to come around and pick and choose. Isn't it great? President Trump signed an executive order saying that there ain't going to be any more of these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. You don't get to harbor illegal immigrants anymore. We're going to come in and we're going to get those people. Tom Homan has said that. And guess what? Governor Pritzker or anybody else, if you don't do what's right, you're in violation of the law. To include, look, in some of these red states, like where we live here in Texas, sheriffs in these red states, blue county sheriffs, I call them. Dallas County, Harris County, Houston, Travis County, Austin, Bexar County, San Antonio, El Paso County. You better make sure that you're doing your constitutional duty as a law enforcement officer. That's what sheriffs are. They're elected. They take an oath. Your oath is not to the Democrat Party. Your oath is to the people to provide safety and security. So we'll be watching to see what's happening with some of these blue county sheriffs that are in Republican states. And Republican legislators and Republican governors need to make sure that they are abiding by the law, that they are making sure that they support these deportations. And speaking of which, wasn't it great to see President Trump just basically spank the Colombian president? We're not taking Colombian president. We're not taking these people back. Oh, really? Okay. How about some 25% tariffs could go up higher than that? How about some diplomatic visa restrictions? How about some other travel restrictions? I mean, he just went down the list. I think it was 2 hours later, the guy just completely rolled, to include offering up his own presidential plane to transport criminal illegal immigrants back. And opening up Guantanamo, what do you say, 30,000 beds? Absolutely. See, we find terrorists here. Don't send them back to the country they came from because they won't care. We find violent criminals, some of them, no, put them in Guantanamo Bay. Let them sit there until they get old, their teeth fall out. But let's stop repatriating bad people back onto the battlefield like the Biden administration has done, like the Obama administration did, like Kamala Harris would have done. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Steadfast Law Program. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West here at Watchtower Firearms. This is the custom design AR-15 that was just made for me. It's got my Steadfast Law logo there. On this side, you can see my signature, my master parachutist wings, of course, American flag. And I just want to tell you that you can't be a great American unless you have a great American weapon. And that's exactly what Watchtower Firearms is building. Great American weapons, all American parts, manufactured right here in the great state of Texas. And oh, by the way, let me see, where is the serial number on this one? TX1836. If you're from Texas, I think you know what that means. God bless you. God bless Watchtower.
Hey, dead center. Yes.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Segment 3, Steadfast Law Program for this week. Been talking about this whole illegal immigration issue. I mean, there's so many aspects of it, and everything is right. You got to be aligned with the Constitution, the rule of law, protecting our sovereignty. You got to send a clear message that says that the United States of America is just not a piece of land, terrain, in between Canada and Mexico and 2 respective oceans. We have borders, and we're going to protect those borders. We would love for you to come here. I mean, I get sick and tired of everyone saying, America is a nation of immigrants. Okay. But people knocked on the front door, and they came in here. And we have laws that talk about how you can become a citizen. You're natural born or you're naturalized. We have laws that say if you're not born here naturally, if you're not naturalized, you can be here with a, legal residency status, green card, all of these things. But to insinuate that you can just traipse on into the United States of America and get whatever the Sam Hill you want, and the legal law-abiding American citizens are supposed to pay for it. Or you can just come here and, kill us, rape us, assault us, set us on fire in a subway. And we should just feed you and take care of you for the rest of your life. No, you're not supposed to be here, period. And really, truthfully, this is the old colonel speaking. You come into this country illegally as a single military-age male especially, and you commit a crime against an American, I see that as an act of war. Those cartel members that fired across our border enacting a a firefight against our Border Patrol agents. Look, when Pancho Villa came across the border into New Mexico and conducted a raid into a town, and I think 19 Americans were killed, we sent the Army across the Rio Grande after Pancho Villa. Don't believe me? Go check it out. John J. Pershing, the punitive expedition. There should be punitive actions against people that think they can come across the border and commit crimes against Americans. Talk about mercy. That's misplaced. I mean, these folks should be ashamed of themselves to call them, quote unquote, faith leaders, religious leaders. Sorry. As a matter of fact, let me give you a couple examples for all these Catholic bishops. When God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, he didn't say, oh, you know what? I'm going to have you can come back. I'm sorry. I'll be merciful. No. He told them not to eat from that one tree. Don't do it. They did it. There are consequences, ramifications. There was a punitive action. He kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. And he stationed an angel with a sword of fire. Make sure they didn't come back. When Jesus went into the temple and saw that his Father's house was being defiled by the money changers and everybody else, he didn't say, oh, okay, can you guys sweep up a little bit? He overthrew tables. He basically said, get the hell out of here. Maybe he didn't say, get the hell out of here. That's the colonel saying that. But he said, get out of here. He didn't say, I'll be merciful. I understand. You know what? I hate that commercial. He gets us. No, he didn't get money changers being in his Father's house and defiling it. So I don't like people coming in and defiling my country. You got to go. Now we will mercifully go in and arrest you. We would treat you with dignity as we walk you to an aircraft in chains and repatriate you back to your country of origin. We won't do anything in a nature of harassment, like we see Hamas doing to the hostages that they're releasing to go back to Israel. Maybe that's a topic for another day. I don't understand why you reward a terrorist organization by releasing terrorists in exchange for people that they wrongfully took from your own country. But we got to do better. And we got to do what's right here in the United States of America on this issue. But there are a couple other parts of this illegal immigration issue that I think that it's important for us to cover and to understand, because President Trump is tackling this thing called birthright citizenship, and everybody's up in a roar. It's got to go to the Supreme Court. And, I can just guarantee you that Justice Clarence Thomas is licking his chops off. I mean, just salivating. Please bring this. I bet he ends up writing the majority opinion, because I want to share with you, because, those people that know me know that I always carry my little pocket constitution around, and, I have the clip on it because it's kind of falling apart. So let's check out what it says in the 14th Amendment. Okay. Let's find that sucker. 14th Amendment in section 1, because the left is trying to use this and take it out of its context. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, John Locke, Natural Law, without due process of the law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's the 14th Amendment, section 1. Now, all of a sudden, people are trying to say that folks coming across into the United States of America who are here illegally, and they have a child, they get citizenship. Well, first of all, let me tell you something. I served in the military for 22 years. I saw a lot of little babies being born overseas. None of them had citizenship in the country where they were born. So forget about it. But understand the context of these three amendments and why I say these three. The 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment, which of course the Republican Party was founded on one premise, and that was to end slavery, the abolition of slavery. The 13th, and that's Abraham Lincoln, first Republican president. The 13th Amendment got rid of the institution of slavery. Done, gone. Now, all of a sudden, you have all these people that you free from slavery. What are you going to do? You're going to reverse all the previous bad decisions, 3/5 of a person, all this stuff, Dred Scott decision. That's why you had the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment took people that looked like me, men, women, and children, and allowed us to become citizens of these United States of America. Gave us all the constitutional rights and privileges, as it says, shall not deprive any person of life, liberty, or property. Those inalienable rights that we talk about in the Declaration of Independence. And it says that without any due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws, the Equal Protection Clause, which the left tries to manipulate and use for every single thing, to include gay marriage. The Democrats did not vote nor support the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments then. Now, all of a sudden, they're trying to use the 14th Amendment to push their ideological agenda to allow for illegals to be in this country or children to come into this country and also, bam, you're an American. When this person has violated the laws to be here. There are people coming into this country pregnant, flying it pregnant, because we have not understood the originalist interpretation of the 14th Amendment. See, that's what we need to get back to. I know some people are going to start talking about some cases that came later. I don't care about the cases that came later. I'm looking at the original intent of the 14th Amendment. See, slaves were brought here unwillingly to operate in a system that was legal at the time. The 13th Amendment made that system illegal. So therefore, the people that had been brought here unwillingly, they were freed from that illegal system. And then they were granted citizenship. People that are coming here illegally, they don't get to have citizenship. And this whole thing about subject to the jurisdiction thereof. When I was overseas stationed, if I broke the laws of that country, yes, I was under their jurisdiction. Now, maybe there was a status of forces agreement that, they said, okay, we're going to turn you back over to the United States justice system. They will prosecute you and you will be held accountable. But I wasn't a citizen of Italy when I was stationed in Italy. I wasn't a citizen of South Korea when I was stationed in South Korea. I wasn't a citizen of Afghanistan when I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan. I was under the jurisdiction of some of their laws. Yeah, I couldn't go out and just wantonly murder an Afghan. I couldn't go out and, there's a lot of things I couldn't do. So we need to get back to understanding the originalist intent. When we start talking about this birthright citizenship thing, I hope it does go to the Supreme Court. Like I said, I hope Clarence Thomas gets to write that majority opinion, because the original intent of the 14th Amendment was not for people who came here illegally. The original intent of the 14th Amendment, which the Democrats did not support then, which the Democrats are trying to manipulate now because they believe in a living constitution, which they can massage for whatever purpose that they want. That's what they're doing with the 14th Amendment. That's why we have this birthright citizenship thing. Don't fall for this. Don't allow them to take something so precious called citizenship in the United States of America and turn it into a cheap little thing. My wife, Angela, is a naturalized citizen. She was born in Jamaica. Her dad's buried in Arlington National Cemetery along with her mom. I remember when she became an American citizen, she cried. And I can just imagine when the 14th Amendment passed, how those men, women, maybe their children too, they cried. They were no longer slaves. They were citizens of the greatest nation that the world has ever known. Still had a long ways to go, thanks to the Democrats fighting against them. But they were citizens. So let's not allow this birthright citizenship to be some manipulation of our rule of law, which is what the progressive socialist left loves to do. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Steadfast and Lower Program. We'll be right back. Hi, folks. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Last segment, this episode of Steadfast and Lower Program. You know, I ended up talking about this whole birthright citizenship thing in segment 3 and how it is offensive. It's condescending to me as an American black man to see how certain people want to manipulate this thing called the 14th Amendment, which gave citizenship to slaves, freed slaves, made them Americans, all for a political purpose. I mean, I can't understand why we just can't look at the Constitution, read the words like I did in the third segment, and just understand truthfully the context in which it was written. That's what I'm saying. This whole thing about a living Constitution, I don't have time for it. If there's something that you want to change about the United States of America, sure, make an amendment. Let me tell you, you wanted me to tell you what would be a good amendment to make right now for the United States of America? That a losing president does not get to grant preemptive pardons. A losing president does not get to go out and continue to make policy changes after he has lost. The only thing that losing president does is start figuring out how he's going to pack and aid in the transition. Because let me tell you something. Some of the things that the Biden administration did on the way, Biden-Harris administration did on the way out, to me, it may not be unconstitutional because it's not codified in our rule of law. Some of the things are, but it's unethical. It's immoral, borderline unlawful. That'd be a good amendment to put in there. But again, I digress. Birthright citizenship. That's oxymoronic. If you are a child of American parents, you're a citizen. If you're not, you're not. Just because people have their feet on terra firma in this constitutional republic does not automatically give someone citizenship. That's not the case of how it is in any other country. That's not the case of how it is for American servicemen and women and their children. So that should not be the case here. So in talking about that, I wonder how many blacks understand the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Those are critical and crucial. You know, Joe Biden once said, no amendment to the Constitution is, let's see, what did he say? Like permanent? I mean, the guy is incredible. He was talking about the Second Amendment because he, you know, if it doesn't go along with the left's ideological agenda, they don't like it. Or if it can be used for their ideological agenda, then they'll figure out a way to do so. But we're going into the month of February. And everybody is going to start talking about Black History Month. But I got to ask you, what Black history are we going to talk about? You know, I was recently up in Washington, D.C., as you know, for the inauguration and You know, they got the brand new African American Museum of History. First of all, I'm just an American black man. I mean, Elon Musk is more African American than I am. I think y'all know where I'm going. I know some African American. See, African American has nothing to do with skin color. There are people that have come here from what used to be Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, South Africa, places in Africa, and they've come to America, and they're now naturalized American citizens. They're African American. I'm an American black guy. But what's interesting to me that when you go into the African American Museum, they don't talk a lot about conservative blacks. They don't talk a lot of, Clarence Thomas or Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell, Walter Williams, Thomas Sowell. They don't talk a lot about black conservatism. I mean, for me, my philosophical mentor here in the United States of America is a guy by the name of Booker T. Washington. I see him as the father of black conservatism. I mean, Booker T. Washington had, a 3-point plan of education, entrepreneurship, and self-reliance as he established the Tuskegee Institute for Normal and Industrial Education. I mean, I want you to think about Booker T. Washington and the story of his life. If you don't know, you should read his autobiography, Up From Slavery. This kid, born into slavery. And as I talked about in the previous segment, I mean, 13th Amendment comes along, he's free. You know what Booker T. Washington wanted more than anything else? He just wanted an education. The guy pretty much so walked from what is present-day West Virginia all the way over to Hampton, Virginia. He stopped and spent some time in Richmond to try to earn a little bit more money. Slept under he had those built up wooden sidewalkways, along businesses and stuff. He slept under there. I mean, some people would say he was a homeless guy. No, he wasn't homeless. He was in transition. He knew exactly what he wanted in life. And when he got enough money, he made it over to Hampton to go to Hampton Institute, which was at the time the only advanced institute of education for blacks. And when he graduated, I mean, he worked there. He mopped floors, he swept, he did whatever it took so he could earn his keep to stay there at Hampton. And at first when he graduated, he went back and he just wanted to teach his family, teach them how to read, do math, all of these basic things. And then he was so recognized for his diligence, his resilience, his resolve, that he was given the mission of establishing the first institution of higher education for blacks in the South. Tuskegee, Alabama. Tuskegee University now. Education, entrepreneurship, and self-reliance. I think not just in the black community, I think all communities need to go back and read Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, his autobiography. If there's one thing we should do in this Black History Month, instead of listening to the same old charlatans, the Al Sharptons, all these other chuckleheads out there, let's really try to educate ourselves. I wrote a little book a few years ago. It's called We Can Overcome, because we're always singing we shall overcome. Shall is a passive verb. Can is an active verb. Because it's time for us we can overcome, an American Black Conservative Manifesto. And, on the front, and I always challenge people to name the 5 people on the front. Well, up here, there you go. Booker T. Washington. Down here, Thomas Sowell. In the center, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass had that great quote. There are 3 boxes that protect a man's rights: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. Now, of course, some people say, well, that's white supremacist talk. No, it came from this guy, former slave, because he understood what you had to do to maintain your rights and your freedoms. Down here, first Black female millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker. And up here, a lot of people don't know this fella, Henry O. Flipper, first Black graduate from the United States Military Academy, West Point. He's a Georgia boy, just like me. As a matter of fact, down from around where my folks grew up, Thomasville, my mom's side, just south of Albany and Camilla. And so I just talk about how we can overcome and talk about Black conservatives and conservatism and those principles and those values, faith, family, freedom, education, individual responsibility and accountability, small business entrepreneurship. That's what Booker T. Washington was all about. That's what Madam C.J. Walker was all about. In service to the nation, looking at someone like Henry O. Flipper. And so this Black History Month, because I know what people are saying, okay, so Colonel, blah, 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 you're talking a lot. What are you going to do? I'll tell you what the old Colonel's going to do. Colonel's going to take a trip February the 14th through the 16th down to Tuskegee, Alabama. I will be at Moton Field, M-O-T-O-N, Moton Field, the home of the Tuskegee Airmen. And the organization that I'm a part of, the Round Canopy Parachute Team, RCPTUSA, we're going to do commemorative airborne jumps to remember the 555th Parachute Infantry Regiment, the Triple Nickels, who were the famous smoke jumpers. See, a lot of people don't remember during World War II, the Japanese were flying incendiary balloons over the Pacific Northwest to set forest fires. The Triple Nickel were not allowed to go and jump and fight in combat over in the European theater of operations. But they were tasked to go in, and actually the techniques and procedures and tactics that they use are the precedent for what many of the smoke jumpers use today. We're going to jump in honor of them. And maybe some of you should go and read about the Triple Nickels. Because as a U.S. Army Master Parachutist, Air Assault badge wearer, and also Navy Marine Corps parachutist insignia recipient, those men set the stage for a guy like me to be able to put my knees in the breeze and look up under the silk of a parachute. And we're also going to honor the men from Tuskegee, the Tuskegee Airmen. Recently, someone there in the Air Force, when Donald Trump decided to get rid of the DEI programs, they tried to invoke the name of the Tuskegee Airmen as an example of DEI. Nah. See, those guys weren't looking for equality of outcomes. They just wanted equality of an opportunity. The most requested fighter squadron in World War II were the Tuskegee Airmen. Why? Because they never lost a bomber that they escorted in operations in World War II. That's how exceptional they were. So this Black History Month, just don't go out there and do the normal thing that everybody else does. Learn something. Like, where did Juneteenth come from? When the Blacks who were slaves here in Texas on June the 19th of 1865 realized that they were free. And then guess what happened 2 years later in the state of Texas? On July the 4th of 1867, Independence Day, 150 black men and about 30 or 40 white men got together and established the Republican Party of Texas, the largest state Republican Party in the country, established by 150 black men. That's Black history. And that's what it means to be steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.